think, right, Jesus? Thanks for following us and joining us. Stick with us. Um, we'll catch up soon. Lasso kamati me. So we're live now. Okay, perfect on Facebook and here on Instagram.
So just to reintroduce ourselves,
Manuel Samaripa, co-founder of the Institute of Chicana Chicana Psychology.
Jessica Tlasotiani Samaripa, same.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, we get together. We like to get together with all of our hearts as a people. We're a collective people. We heal together. We grow together. We go through our challenges together, and so especially in this time of with that intense messenger that is COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are more isolated right now. We're more apart from each other. So it's important to take a few moments to be together.
Yeah.
So in that being together, right now we're talking about our wellness, right? Raza wellness, Raza self care,
Mm-hmm.
honoring the collective spirit that we have, honoring our hearts, honoring the way we walk in the world with our ancestors. And so I wanted to start with the concepts that connect us, but if you wanted to start from your psychologist lens.
Um, no, I mean, I think we're going to talk about similar things. I think just to mention the things that I think are present in a lot of our minds. We just came out of this election. And so that was weighing heavy for a lot of us. And still, I think even though the results seem to be what most of our community was hoping for, I think a lot of us still understand that there's a lot of work to do. And either
Right.
way, it was like a lot of us were just holding on. We didn't know what was going to come next. We had already been living through these 4 years, and so
So we can
that's
take that one breath, but then
right.
we are gonna continue to press and ask for more equitable living, right?
Mm-hmm.
Access to resources, housing, loans, like to buy houses or whatever
Right.
we might want to do, so that we can live our fullest lives, which we have been trained to think, right, through oppression, internalized oppression, that it isn't our right or it's not for us.
Mm-hmm.
So that reframing, that repositioning within ourselves, that we move forward in a way that we can live in these ways. We can demand our wellness,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just that shifting alone to know that we have the right to take up space. We have the right to
Mm.
demand certain things. Just that shift alone can bring wellness in
Yeah,
small ways.
and and one of the things I think that comes up, I think for me, when we talk about this, and I'm glad that you're gonna kind of lead with talking about some of the concepts that can guide us, is the difference between, and maybe this is a psychologist lens, right? The difference between de-stressing and self-care. And de-stressing is, I think, a lot of the times we get that confused with self-care because de-stressing is like something, stressful just happened, we've had a hard day, whatever, and we find something to kind of help us, bring us back, calm us. Good. It's good stuff. It's important after we've had a hard day or we're very angry or very sad or something, and we find activities that can bring us back, activities that can help us feel better, that can we can take care of ourselves. But those are activities, those are de-stressing activities once we're already at a point of anxiety or stress. Self-care, or collective care, as we can talk about, is more of something to incorporate throughout our lives, something that kind of prepares us always, one, to stay healthy, to stay grounded, to stay in balance, and two, when we stay in balance and we have additional intentions to kind of fortify ourselves, it helps us uh, it helps prepare ourselves when we are going to walk into those battles, when we are going to take those hits that we do out there. And so self-care is more of incorporating into our lives in what's going to kind of keep us in the healthiest place as possible, knowing that we're going to take hits.
Mm.
And I think connecting with our concepts and cycles helps us to know what to prepare for.
Right, right.
Right.
So we know that we need to acknowledge that we come from a colonized history, right? So there's that trauma already to begin with. That colonized history and
Mm-hmm.
intergenerational trauma, right? And what we know, like you always say, is that with the intergenerational trauma, there's multi-generational healing, which means that, you want to explain that a little bit?
Well, I just think that we've acknowledged and understood that we have intergenerational trauma. It's everywhere. It's in our family patterns. It's in our DNA. And I think that sometimes, particularly those in the helping fields working with us, it's good when we recognize that, like, okay, there's some intergenerational trauma, and even our own families. But in the process of healing, I think that one part of our self care and our collective care is to realize that we can heal so much, we can do so much better in this time we have on earth in our lives. And there's still going to be pieces of healing that's going to take generations to heal because we've had so many generations of trauma that we got to find out what we can do, what we can begin repairing, and also be gentle with ourselves and make sure that other people are understanding of ourselves and our families when just because we get intergenerational trauma that it doesn't turn around within a year or two, that it doesn't just boom now like how come you guys are still stuck in these patterns.
Because it takes
Multi-generational
multi-generational.
healing. Yeah.
Right. So, in that awareness of our cultural wounds, right, and then shifting to thinking about our cultural strengths that we can use to help us through those,
Mm-hmm.
along with the regular stressors, we go back to our roots, right, back to our ancestry, to understand that we are a part of everything that exists. We are a part, first, all our relations, right? All of our relations, and at the same time our non-human relatives, to position ourselves in a way that reminds us that the
Mm-hmm.
plants, are our sisters and brothers, that the trees are our grandmothers or our grandfathers,
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
Tatatonatiu, the sun, father, son, and Nana Metzli is our moon. So we're related to everything that exists. And when we position ourselves in that way and walk in that way, we understand that we are a part of these cycles that exist naturally, the natural order of things. For example, the seasons. So when we are in alignment with these cycles, with our Madre Tierra, with her blood, which is the water, we understand that there is a time for to go. We're heading into the time, for example, to go into the winter, right?
Mm-hmm.
When things shut down, when we recognize decay as a natural part of things, when we recognize that there's a time to quiet down, time to slow all of our activities if we can, right?
Mm-hmm.
A time to go introspective. This would be the direction of the north. This would be Tezcatlipoca,
Scalipoca, yeah.
where we where we look inward, right? And we're not afraid to face all the different parts of who we are gently, and to gently, accept that all of who we are, and then and just try to reconcile some of that and try to cut away what doesn't serve us. So then we go into the spring. So then we're ready for that chinachli, when that seed, that moment when the seed germinates, when it's going to become, take another state, when it's going to bud into that flower that it's going to be. So when we recognize that we're a
Mm-hmm.
part of these concepts of nature, right? This is
The
our
order of
family,
nature, the
and
order of
we have
things, yeah.
those moments within ourselves when we come into that springtime. We're ready to push for that new life that we've been preparing for, whatever it be. May be a project, or repairing relationships with our children,
Mm-hmm.
or seeing if we can, repair relationships with our elders, or with our partners, so, or ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we take those cycles and we align ourselves with them. We take the cycle of the winter, we do that, and then we move into the spring and we're ready for that. And once we recognize that we're a part of these cycles, that brings its own wellness. For example, the cycle of the breath, right? You breathe in, and you breathe in that refreshing, that cool air. You breathe into your body, you can feel it. And then you breathe out what doesn't serve you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that there's that connection between the external world and your internal self,
Right.
remembering that each of us is our own universe, right? So so breathing out, breathing in, and you don't have to pay for that. That's a part of Rasa wellness that, you know what, that connection with everything that exists, that is already yours. You don't have to go to therapy for it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, not knocking therapy. Therapy is wonderful,
But there
but
are
it's
pieces
free.
that
There's
yeah,
pieces. You know, when we walk
of
on our
ourselves.
Madre Tierra, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we walk giving her cariños with every step, right? We don't
Yep.
want to always walk in a hurry, 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 go, 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 go. You know, that's we've caused her a lot of damage, yeah, and now it's time to repair, right? So
Yeah.
we walk in those ways, remembering if we can walk slower, if we can, more mindfully, right? If we can take those breaths, you know, having that sacred cycle of the breath within ourselves, in and
Yeah.
out.
That's
So
right.
these are the concepts that are ours already, right? This is our rasa wellness. This is our rasa self care, and that's one way that we can match the cultural wounds with our cultural strengths.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things that I remember some of the things that we talk about is I love when you said that, like when we slow down, we're walking on our Mother Earth, on our Madre with care. It's a relationship. We're treating her more gently even in our walking.
Hmm.
And you know, the rasa self care, rasa collective care that we're talking about is, on the one hand, that's a very secular concept. It makes sense. It's good advice for anybody. Slow down. Right? You'll hear that in any doctor's office, any mental health person. It's like slow down, walk slower. It's good for your health. But with us, we can also add that intention. We can infuse that sacredness, that connection, which, yes, it's good in a secular, healthy way, but can also feed our rasa soul if we decide to see it. Well, we believe see what's already there anyway.
Right.
But if y'all, like, you know, in talking about this, decide to also make it an intentional connection to our Madre Tierra, an intentional relationship, caressing with her, treating her well. Just that one example that stuck with me that you just said right now about walking slower
Hmm.
can be expanded in so many ways, and then that's how we pass that down to our kids and start removing some of those cultural wounds and some of those intergenerational trauma patterns of behavior. We can start talking to them about how to relate with the earth in a way that's ancestrally consistent and congruent with
Hmm.
what our people have known for a long time already. And
Yeah.
I also wanted to quickly say that if anyone has any questions or wants to comment, whether you're on Facebook or Instagram, you can please do that. It's not a presentation. I think one of the things we wanted to do different was
Talk with each
talk
other.
with each other, make it a I don't know, yeah, whatever, something casual.
I was gonna say when you were talking that that a lot of the ancient medicines and traditions all came to the same same knowings, the same conclusions, the same investigations as
Hmm.
we did. Like we were saying, you know, that cariños with our Madre Tierra when we walk, you know, like aligning our footsteps with that heartbeat, right? Her heartbeat, our heartbeat,
Hmm.
aligning us together, and something that would then come from Eastern philosophies would be like being in the now, right?
Hmm.
Mindfulness, and we
Right.
have those concepts in our own ancestors, our
Traditions, yeah.
own traditions, our own medicines. And right now, people are, you know, waking up. Our people are waking up into that connection, reconnecting, reclaiming our tierra, our land, And I mean that like as who we are, not actually like we're getting land, because we know we don't have access to land a lot of the time.
Right.
No, but that reconnecting to who we are, right? To the legacy that our ancestors left us. So in that way, positioning ourselves here on this continent that we come from, uh,
Yeah.
it understanding the seeds planted, the roots planted on our land, and knowing that when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about ourselves, our mind, our body, our spirit, our connections, our collective selves, our emotional wellness. When we know that we are all part of that, we walk in a way that brings more base safety, a more feeling of safety,
Yeah.
instead of that concept of we don't belong, where all these negative stigmas that have been put out there, and
Yeah.
how it's been affecting our kids, prison to school, school to prison pipelines, and graduating at lower rates, staying in college at lower rates, not meeting all of these markers, are eating, access to food, access to healthy food, those are base things that if we remember our power, our fuerza, who we are,
Hmm.
that I think that we can start to recover.
Food, you reminded me of that whole idea of when we're talking about self-care and collective care and staying connected and reconnected, that remembering again, like so many of us know that um, our culture of origin it has one of the healthiest diets.
Mm-hmm.
You
All
know,
right.
we had a very corn-based diet, as we know, and all of that changed as we got incorporated into the United States,
Yeah,
and
there was the amaranth,
you
the
had amaranth,
chia.
chia,
Mm-hmm.
and and uh, and then as we had more European influences, then we moved toward other based diets that aren't as healthy for our people, and so
And then we didn't have access to our own land, right? So
right,
then our food, getting our food got put in the hand of wherever we can get it, And sometimes that's fast food now.
yeah. And we had a connection as well to everything that cycle that we take in.
You mean
And,
the
and
breath?
and you talk about no, like preparing the food. It was a connection with right before we were about to eat food. There was some intention. There was an honoring of knowing that we were part of a healthy cycle of taking the food within us and putting all of our joy, all of our medicine
As you cook
as
it.
you're cooking it,
Right.
as because it's going to your family. So we do hear about that sometimes. We had that book a long time ago, the movie Like Water for Chocolate,
Oh yeah, they
right?
put that in
And they
there.
put that
Right,
in
right,
there,
right.
and it's a very kind of
Her emotions came
Mexican
out in
and
the food.
yeah, and Mexican Latinx,
Very
concept, right?
realistic. For real.
But or not but and that comes from indigenous ways of being. It comes from it's a strong tradition to our indigenous ancestors. So again, I think when we talk about our wellness, we talk about um, we rise by lifting others. That kind of that phrase, and so we have a lot of community connections to maintain, and I think we want to try to maintain those community connections in ways that also there's a reciprocal energy exchange
There
where
is always an energy exchange in
all the
everything we
time,
do. Yeah.
so that it's something that gives to us as we give back, and I think
Right.
it's a time of trying to keep those connections, those healthy connections,
Right. The healthy ones.
strong, alive, and realizing that it's harder to do now because we can't really be with each other because of the COVID situation, but that um, that we always need to have the self and the collective in mind when we're trying to put into place practices in our lives
In our
that in our
families.
families that kind of help us move in a good way.
To heal the 7 generations back and the 7 generations forward. Again, all of these things that we're talking about remind us that we're a collective people, right? And that feeds us. And a lot of the time in this very individualistic Western way of living, we don't even realize what we're missing. We know there's a lack. We don't know what it's from, right?
Right.
So,
Right. I
so
love
we're
that.
going to keep speaking towards our wellness, right? How do we thrive in these conditions when there is so much trauma, right? Um, and so back to what you were saying, there's that saying that we have ancestrally, at the end of our lives. I always like to say
I
this
love
one:
it. It's great.
al menos dejemos flores, al menos dejemos cantos. So at the end of our lives, at least we left flowers with our words. At least we left song. And that doesn't mean um, that we have to always be, bright and
Flowery.
cheery, flowery. No, we don't. Obviously, that's not real. If we're going to accept the Ometeot, right, in us, the coming together of two energies to create, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know that there's different parts. There's the light, there's the dark, there's all these things within us. And so we try and heal those parts within us. But like you're saying, when we're cooking, these practices, when we're cooking or when we're around the water or when we're hopefully we can sit at the table together, maybe hopefully there's enough wellness that we can do that. And if we can, then the palabra, that you're sharing and the amor, the palabra in the food that you've put in the food and that you've put in the water, the medicine you've woven in there can bring that wellness to your family, can bring that
Mm-hmm.
that wellness to yourself, can rejuvenate you, which brings us back always to the concept that we're a part of everything that exists, we're a part of everything that lives, and centering ourselves in that way
Mm-hmm.
reminds us that what we do, we can bring that medicine without going to those $400 retreats or signing up for that, whatever those things cost. I don't know, but
Yeah.
a lot of things can be expensive, and we don't have access to that. But we have access to this. We have access to our ancestral concepts. We have access to our breath, to completing that sacred cycle, and being aware of that.
And today is Friday the 13th, which
Oh,
is
which is a,
13.
a lucky day for us.
Yeah.
The white dominant culture has said that the 13 is a
Unlucky.
unlucky number.
So.
However, we know historically with our sacred numbers, we know that the Mexica group things in which Aztecs
Mm-hmm.
13, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trecena, that's a group of 13 days. There's 13 groupings of years.
Mm-hmm.
So we measure like from 0 to 13. That's when the kids have their kind of, you would say, coming of age ceremony, chilonen or telpocanesi for boys, chilonen for girls.
Mm-hmm.
And then 13 more, you take stock again. What is that, 26?
26. Yeah.
And then again, and then when you reach 52, you're an abuelo or an abuela, right?
Because
And
it's a completion of 4.
it's a completion of 4, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, happy Friday the 13th. That is a
Just wanted to say
lucky
that. Yeah.
day.
It is a
Um,
lucky,
that
sacred.
probably has been, again, through the Spaniard lens or the European lens. Probably they were afraid of the power of
Of
these
13.
things.
That it does have a very it is rooted in that idea because 13 was a very sacred number for our people and some others,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very connected to indigenous spirituality, and it was scary to the mainstream European ways of being. So that's one of the roots as to why it became unlucky. It was associated with witchcraft and anyway.
And we know
But
that they demonized everything
yeah.
that was powerful for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they saw us working with the fire, well, I don't want to bring up more trauma, but they did terrible things. If they saw us working with our powerful medicines. So happy Friday the 13th.
Uh, and I think, well, I guess we're having to wrap up already. This is, again, just kind of, we wanted to, be with you all about, for a little bit of time, every
Be
Friday, be
together.
together, since we can't be together. And
Apapachar.
apapachad, which you love to say, I love. um, yeah, just, to always remember that there are ways that our people have known about connecting to the good that's all around us, connecting to the health that's all around us, connecting to the wellness that's all around us, and that we need to continue to do that together. So always reach out to us. This is just probably a lot of things that we're saying are just beginnings,
Right. They're just the
seeds.
seeds. We could,
Hmm.
that's, with our platicas and our workshops, we definitely talk a lot more
Right, right,
in depth. But at the base of it all, for your wellness, try and eat healthy if you can. If that means it's a burger and fries, but then you add some mouthful of spinach, so be it. We have to be gentle with ourselves. Eat, as healthy as you can. Drink water and
right.
sleep. See if you can sleep. Make a nice tea if you're having trouble sleeping.
Yeah, and I'll say just really quickly, like something we always say is another way is with intention, kind of stay connected with the elements. So when we say when you take a shower, the element of water, really with intention, feel your stress go down. Feel everything. Let the
Let that
water
move through
take
you.
it.
Hmm.
When you're outside, put you take off your socks and your shoes. Feel the ground beneath you. Let our Mother Earth, our Mother, to take what she needs to take from you. Feel the earth
And
underneath you.
and walk like we said with those cariños,
When
for
you feel the
her.
breeze, what's the wind telling you? What message, what comes up when you feel that breeze on your face? What emotions, thoughts just come to you? And the fire, when you're cooking, that's a good thing when you're cooking or anytime you're
You're
anywhere in
honoring the
this,
fire.
any type of fire, heat, what comes up, what might be it be telling you? What do you need? It gives us light also, like to say, for guidance. So
Hmm.
maybe,
And
um,
align it within the fire within you, which is
yeah,
the passion, right? Your passion for what you might be moved to say, what you might need to put out there, or if you need to protect yourself, right? That passion within you, align yourself. Remember, these are other ways for rasa self-care. So remember, the tierra, the earth, is my body, right? Is your body. The water is your blood. The wind is your breath and your voice, and the fire is your spirit and your passion.
hmm,
So we
okay.
can
We'll
leave
leave it
with
there.
that. Happy
Happy, ha-
Lucky Friday
happy
13th.
Lucky Friday 13th.
Oh,
All right,
Mateo.
Home Mateo.